Let's go.
I'm just so
Why do you look so much smaller?
It's been forever. He's
He's so much smaller. I gotta step back. Hi everybody, I missed you.
Hi, we missed you too. We missed you too. How hyped are you for the first match?
Very hype. I'm excited to see y'all's predictions. I got a leak of what y'all have predicted, and there's some hot takes, but I'll let the analysts do the analyzing.
The only hot take really is that Scott Costa Kennedy is going for the Florida Mayhem because of course, reasons. Harry, Jennifer, do you agree with his hot take?
I'm going to say that
Florida Mayhem over Shock?
Less hot than it would have been before. Like, Florida Mayhem are by no means a team that's counted out of this matchup. Like, Merit is going to have a huge amount of space to work on this team, and I think that Chorong's really going to bring the Lucio expertise that this team needed from the previous season.
Yeah, I'd also like to defend it a little bit. It's important. San Francisco Shock have been announced that they are playing out of Korea on higher ping. So keep an eye on that. That might be a difficult thing for the Shock to deal with.
I thought there was a lot of scrim box. I thought Costa was tapped in.
We still believe until they prove us otherwise. So Costa, very bold of you to rock up on your first show this year and be wrong in your prediction. Can't wait for that to happen. But we have to play the game to know whether or not that will ring true. And that means that I'm going to hand it over to you guys. Lemon Kiwi Leg Day, take it away.
All right. Well, if you thought Costa had the hot takes, just wait for what we have cooked up. We're called the double L's for a reason, because that's really all we take. But at least one of these teams will be taking L's. And yeah, script books we're ringing leg day about these teams. But I'm a science gal. I like to see the evidence of how they play before I give a #1 team to anybody.
Lemon needs an evidence hypothesis before she's willing to give you a pred. But one of the things about our little round robin here at the Pro-Am, Lemon, is that in this first to 2 format, it can kind of be anyone's game. You can't just run away with a couple of maps and suddenly the series is over. There are no take-backsies, not much room for a reverse sweep. So if you can come out swinging as Florida Mayhem, who we didn't have any scrim leaks about Florida Mayhem, they might be a little bit more of an unknown factor and ready to bring out a couple of surprises here. One thing I'm going to be particularly looking for is whether Checkmate, if he's got the Tracer to try and keep either Hisang or Proper in check, who are both legend tier Tracers in their own right.
Yeah, just the hero pool overlap in the Shock is what's going to be most interesting. You know, from the scrim box, it's looking like Hisang's taking over for the Tracer, and Proper's playing hit scan. But I mean, Proper was a flex god, you know, from Genji meta, Tracer meta, whatever it is. Like, he pulled it off. And there's a lot of hype behind Florida too, who made some upgrades as well in their support line. They have Sauna as this new flex player, can play the Tracer, can fill in the gaps, and Merit, who I feel like was this kind of horizontal trade, not really like an upgrade over Hydron, but equally can be that hit scan, Sojourn, whatever that the team needs. And let's roll out on Village Nepal.
All right, Ramatra in action here. Not too many Ramatras that we've seen in pro play recently. It's been very heavily Ryan favored, especially in North America. But like Custer said, San Francisco Shock, we've been cooking up in Korea, so maybe some separate influences have been seen.
The Bastion. I did not have Proper Bastion on my bingo card. I'm not gonna lie. Great boop though from Vindime. Making sure that Proper is well protected. The reason why you have this Cassidy Bastion mix-up, at least in the Pro-Am qualifiers, which is the best evidence of the meta, has been around the Bastion can't hold off angles as well, has to play stacked on the team. Cassidy has more mobility, has more protection, self-peel really. And I was not expecting Proper to pull that out. I thought he'd have the Cassidy to maybe match Merit, but for now it will be the Shock on the point.
Yeah, Proper needs to be very careful about his cooldown cycling as well. After that tank configuration, he's incredibly vulnerable to getting dove, but that's where Junbin comes in, using the E of Ramatra in order to try and slow down rotations that would punish that lack of damage that could come out of the Bastion between cooldowns.
Enemy over here! Enemy here!
It's like Checkmate, just kind of poke the point, just to draw some attention. Hisang not playing that stacked, and this Ramatra of Junbin is also keeping the Ana Cassidy of Merit over stuck in that closet. And surprised that Florida are playing this split. I mean, they're trying to find these off angles around the stack that is the Shock, but not finding much success.
Yeah, we're seeing quite a few timing issues here, and Junbin, like we said before, just is very much prioritizing making sure that someone gets no support. Cuts off RuPaul's healing, and RuPaul needs to walk through that Ramatra shield if they're going to deliver the healing over to someone. I wouldn't mind seeing like a little bit of preemptive poke eating here from Florida Mayhem in order to try and charge up the nano so that someone at least has some damage reduction while RuPaul is busy being cut off by Jundin.
Deadeye from Merritt down low. Even the bubble from someone to protect him. 75% plus though for the shock. Like, we need to see Florida use these ults to get something out of it. All Merritt did was really zone out, and someone just got nano, jumps on in. Maywall for the shock to just protect themselves, maybe even find a split. I think Heesang was just ice blocked. Junbin is also sleeping. Finn brought up the Ant Matrix to maybe stop the dive from the Florida Mayhem. Someone jumps back in, finds a few kills, and signs of life come out from the Florida Mayhem.
I managed to find the chaotic fight where you could really see the Cassidy excel. Opening up space with that Deadeye was super important. Knowing that San Francisco Shock, the poke that they can manage with both the Bastion and the Mei, who doesn't suffer from damage drop-off, and the spam of the Baptiste is simply so much better. And now Finn moves away from the map, over onto the Kiriko instead, more concerned perhaps about cleansing those antis.
Proper. Oh, he's kind of exposed here, and that's where Florida tried to jump on him. A sound bear from Torong doesn't hit RuPaul, but the charge begins to try and deal with Proper. Now that he's out of the tank configuration form, the primal from someone is just tossing everybody up, just to kind of restructure what the shock have been setting up. They do confirm the kill onto Proper. Someone has to get on the point, though, quite literally, the guy himself. He is him. Checkmate there just in case, has the pulse bomb. Maywall up from Heesang. There's only one door left. Florida have to get through it. Someone has to touch. There he is. Maybe needing some assistance from Checkmate. There he is, but it's just not looking like they're going to be able to get the kills, but not enough manpower. So this first round, very much in favor of the Shock.
Shock's movements are looking super clean here. They're able to outmaneuver Florida Mayhem on the first fight, which is so important, because then you can start to lock down those points of ingress with your spam. Florida Mayhem, they need to maybe be a little bit slower, more judicious on how they try and create off angles to generate space for merit, because if they move too soon again and get someone's engagement booped by either Vindime or Finn, then they're going to be in big trouble. San Francisco Shock now. The whole comp swap up is interesting in that it can kind of pre-counter any adjustments that Florida Mayhem might be making against the previous comp that was exhibited.
Got the very famous Heesang Somber. I'm excited for this. Probably Proper on the Tracer. The whole double flanker. Hammond die from the Shock. Many areas to try and just boop Florida out of position. We're going to be present on the point first. See it at the Shock, just setting things up, allowing Florida to just stay in the middle of the map, taking angles around them. But there's already two picks from Florida who took the initiative before Shock were even set up. So at least Florida capping first here is great for them.
Yeah, Jumpin having a lot of trouble there, pathing into a place where they could disrupt the dive from someone, and now Vindame immediately goes over onto Beluso. You need to be able to disrupt those Winston jumps, because if someone can deliver the leap damage onto two supports, as seemed to happen there on Finn and Vindime, then it's going to be absolute curtains for those slower supports. Now, far more mobile. Heesang, Proper, and Junbin can stage super easily, because Heesang can get behind someone for free using the unlimited stealth. Checkmate now, looking to try and find an insertion. However, that is an unhacked health pack behind them. Could be useful for the Wrecking Ball. At the moment, someone doing a huge amount of cleave, and Vindime simply cannot keep up. Finn can only heal a single target at a time, and someone's just gone to the races. Absolute freedom for the Gorilla. Checkmate continuing to chase on down. It's all just free ult charge, baby. Grabs the pulse and won't need any more support ultimate after that. And now Florida Mayhem once again can set up their off angles and positions here. Pay particular attention to Merit, likely going to be doing with Chorong in many of these setups. We've got ourselves the overhead view here, and you can see that Heesang is staging behind, including controlling that health pack, and that puts someone out of position.
Hey, I'm back. Sorry, my feet died. But
Welcome back.
looks like most of Shock have died as well. Florida looking like they're chilling. They got the ults. Kitsune rush too. RuPaul much ahead of that over Finn, 20%. I expect this to be the initiative as Merritt goes for a Deadeye. Didn't expect the Somber from behind. Florida will have do this Kitsune rush down 1, and it's up to Checkmate to really pump out this damage, to really coordinate around him. Florida will use the sound barrier, and they gotta just dump ults. I like the way they're cycling it. It's 85% plus, and Florida are 1 fight away from forcing the round 3. Shock if disengaged, he'll come back for more.
And remember, we've got Merit off a respawn here. Was initially just messing with Junbin's rotation. Now Checkmate is playing Gatekeeper to that, and it means that someone squishy might have to be the one to touch, and it's Heatsang with the EMP.
EMP ready from the Shock. They're all stacked up too. Great pile drive from Junbin. Kitsune rush mines and the EMP from the Shock. Keep in mind, like, even if they win this fight, they gotta go 0 to 100. Close out Nepal in quick fashion. So it was an expensive fight. Now they just flipped. Florida will be around the corner ready for more.
All right, so let's talk about Shock's win conditions when they're playing this defensively now, and that's getting on top of the slow kid, that being Merit. You've got to find the person who can't escape from your dives and try and isolate the support that they get and take out early resources. Jumper's going to try and get a Suzu here using a pile driver.
Merit in trouble. Junbin going in for round 2. RuPaul just teleported 2 at 1 HP. This might be a target that Heatsang and Proper want to go after, as a flip is already beginning for the Shock, or sorry, for the Florida Mayhem. Now the Shock have to fight this on the objective. 99% for Florida. Checkmate following in. Sound Beer from Vindime. Shock reinvigorated as they try to collapse here on this backline. Junbin also lays the mines down, so some real estate for the Shock as they hope to retake so they can take the fight elsewhere. And the kills are at least coming in the way of the Shock, and they'll get the flip shortly, as Florida will have to fight back another day.
However, they did buy themselves even more time and crucially deny it from Shock Lemon. I hate to speak ill of the MVP, but in that fight, Proper needed to mark Checkmate better. The fact that Checkmate could get in onto this mobile backline, basically uncontested, and take out Finn is a bad sign for Shock's timing. However, now Junbin's got the scout, and that's going to make it once again super easy to get that opening pick onto either RuPaul or Charong.
Deadeye, just to kind of zone off Shock while they flip it over. Florida successful with that. Overtime begins, round 3 in the cards. Magnetic grenade, damn, that thing goes far. Either way, Florida down 1. Shock really are just depending on either an EMP or Kitsune rush. Florida's just falling like dominoes before they can even get close to the point, as the Shock are really truly and hoping to do the 0 to 100 comeback.
Oh wow, big spawn camp there, just continues to build more time. The San Francisco Shock have had stolen away from them 2 fights in a row now, just due to point control. Merit, after having used the Deadeye, swaps over onto the Sombra. It's going to control health packs and deny Junbin the ability to operate independently, as well as gives good scouting to Junbin's position, so that you can proactively position against it.
Heatsang had to disengage. At least he's getting scouting done for the EMP. 4 hit. Florida activate the sound beer right after. Florida have the health to work with, and they chase around the Shock even through the Kitsune rush of Finn. It just wasn't enough for the Shock to pull off the miracle, almost at the 0 to 100 comeback. But Florida will just hold on, and they have a Primal Rage if they want to zone people off. And I think I saw Vindime just get booped there at the end, so we're going to round 3.
And when we look at 100 to a 97, Lemon, it keeps you wondering, could it have been another story if San Francisco Shock had not lost control of the point twice across their fight wins? In the end, it might have been necessary for Shock to use those disengagements and set up new angles in space in order to make that happen. We're going to have a quick look at some of the best plays from that previous round. Here we go, it's actually Charong here. I think this is how a fight was set up. Oh no, it's for response to the EMP, a very well-timed barrier. Look at all those criticals. That's a trauma response for any support players who are in the chat.
Yeah, if you know an EMP is coming, definitely dropping the barrier after is important. You're only hacked for a second, but man, that extra damage, the initial damage of an EMP is a big fight setup. Ultimate, as we go to Sanctum, got Proper on the Sojourn. I know he's been trying out different things, even including the Ashe, but Sojourn has a lot more mobility than a lot of the ranged hit scans. You see that someone is already having an aggressive positioning and almost got pooped off on the pillar side by Junbin still on the Hammond. So it'll be a duel, and at least someone can brawl a lot better, and even CC and just be annoying to this ball. And someone, though, missed out on grabbing the Mega, so Junbin just has more health. So someone needs backup. Chorong will present himself, and I believe Merit, too, will have his backup. The point is unlocked, but who wants to go there first?
Proper spam, though, did make it so that Merit can actually join the fight against Junbin, and it allowed for both of those tanks to survive, even when Junbin was pretty classically outplayed there by someone in the one-on-one. We've actually got a 2 versus 2 between the Flex Supports and the Tracers going over on the other side here. Whoever wins this is going to have much better access to the enemy backline.
Junbin's out of the picture, so Florida can kind of advance themselves towards the point. Anyone want to cap? This is the longest I've seen the point not get capped, especially when there's 2 Tracers that are usually used to anchor that objective. Finally, Florida remembered the whole point of this game. Someone is there. He's over on the right side. But we got pulse bombs.
It took a while to cap.
Yeah.
However, I think it came down to some good discipline as well, just not giving up these positions that were super important to maintain in order to like keep your team safe. Checkmate, though, requiring the pocket from the Kiriko is quite inefficient. The Kiriko's not the best pocket from the Tracer.
Oh, Proper's in trouble. He used the jump, couldn't grab the Mega. And Florida have control of the pillar side. They've even nanoed Merit just for the extra firepower. And this is pretty flawless by Florida. I'm loving the Sigma swap. Oh.
Yeah, Visuma's doing very well. Unfortunately, no Suzu to keep Merit alive, and now it's Proper and Finn's time to shine as the holdovers from a previous San Francisco shock. Alas, the chase of 3 is more than enough to make sure that Heesang will be falling down. The Transcendence here is going to be interesting to respond to, as you're likely going to use it to try and deal with the Kitsune rush going through from RuPaul. Checkmate maybe could stick Finn, force that out early. Oh my goodness, it's a super low healing comp now, though. Finn's got the Transcendence for healing, but Vindime not on a flex support anymore.
Like this jump, the Transcendence for tempo against the Kitsune rush of RuPaul, really, who's going to occupy this pillar space to overlook the objective, because Florida are so far having a very flawless Sanctum, and the kills continue rolling in. And Junbin not able to use the Primal in time is curious. Didn't get to see if it was just the burst or wanting to use his next fight, I don't know, but 74% more for Florida.
A little bit of a grog caveman rush there, honestly, from a San Francisco shot. Pop trans, press W, and Proper just gets caught up taking too much damage as everyone just leaps on forward. Now it's going to be potentially last fight, and as you have overtime on the point, you have to deal with Merit's Deadeye, which is going to be super difficult to contain.
Oh, accretion from someone missed Junbin. He's at the back, but Finn and Vindime have to be careful. They got anti-grenaded by Chorong. Florida, we still have, because you have access to the pillar side, you have access to the Mega Pack, so you just have more resources, but without Chorong, we'll see how this goes for Florida. Gravitic Flux from someone, he'll shift over to the point, and Florida, man, they made a huge turnaround from how Village started against the brawl of the shock. He's saying we'll be able to touch, no he's not, so Florida will take map number 1 against the shock.
Somebody needs to get a screen cap of Smokester's face right now. The 1-0 lead, and like we said, this is only a first to 2, Lemon. The room for error in these series is incredibly small. Florida Mayhem opening up their season with a map win against our second from champions. Our runners-up last year is the word that I'm looking for. Is such a show of prowess and absolute daunting talent from this newly constructed roster.
And I think even Shock don't like that you said runner-ups, because the fact that they've retooled such a successful roster, but they are bringing in so many hyped-up pieces that a lot of people are excited for. Florida, like I said, have made kind of mild upgrades, but Florida, I mean, some people, including Custa, predicted them to win, and they're one map away from doing so. And taking a map, or taking just a win against the Shock is huge to maybe get out of groups. Remember, only 2 teams make it out of groups. Florida and Shock were the favorites, and we'll see who the favorites are at the end of this. We're going to throw it to a break, and we'll see you guys on the other side.
millions.
San Francisco Shock,
Proper is a generational talent. He's going to be in this league for a long time.
Look at this guy. He's running down Bernard. Then he just charges the Sigma.
Completely uncontested, tearing through.
갑니다.
Indo tried his best, but it's not going to be enough. Finn is feeling himself. Look at him.
Shot, but only affects him. Rampage going to catch on a two from Taylor, but Proper is there. Oh my. 여기 깔고 또.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pro-Am, the first match of the preseason, I guess. Florida versus Shock, and yeah, Florida took the W on Sanctum with a 100-0 win on that final round after taking an early L on Village against the proper Bastion. Like that was really fun.
Yeah, the proper Bastion, I would have expected a proper Bastion would actually be where they'd had the best chance of succeeding, because it's been the meta for a bunch of contenders teams, as we're likely going to see over the remainder of Pro-Am for a significant amount of time now. We're probably going to be seeing Trick Room play it quite a bit. When you see Trick Room's roster, they love having the Pummy Bastion, so I thought that Mayhem would be well practiced against that. Alas, in the dive versus dive, it was all fair, to be honest, and we actually saw a really good combo of the RuPaul and Checkmate Tracer, really keeping Finn and Hisang in check. And we know that Hisang has now come into this roster as a very accomplished Tracer player. It frees up Proper to play a lot of other heroes. Now we're heading over to King's Row, and this might be a little bit less dive-centric. Maybe San Francisco Shock have picked this map, hoping they can go back to the brawl that previously served them very well against Florida on Village.
Yeah, I wonder if like you had an idea of running Junbin, you would have wanted more like off-tank centric stuff, like bringing, I guess Junbin's the main tank. I was thinking about Max for the Sigma. Either way, Junbin seems to be their preferred tank right now, and they're aiming towards a double sniper, probably just off the rip, as Florida still want to go around the Winston, where I thought, you know, someone's Reinhardt, it matches how his Winston plays. I always said his Winston looks like a Reinhardt, because he's just always jumping in, he's always charging in on the Reinhardt, almost too aggressive, and doesn't play that kind of measured play style that Reinhardt really needs. And we'll see how this dive will go against whatever the Shock have cooked up.
Once again, it's going to be the basic cardinal rules of Overwatch here. Checkmate's priority as a defensive tracer is simply to mess with the pathing of Hisang and make sure that Hisang requires a pocket in order to get onto the squishy underbelly that is Chirong and RuPaul.
For now, it's just initial shots from the Shock. Just trying to see where Florida are coming from. I wonder if they're just hoping to go through Hotel and avoid this dive that could be coming in, and Hisang loses the 1v1, which isn't ideal, so Florida may want to take some initiative, and Junbin misses the jump out and gets finished off too, so Shock seem a little confused on how to approach that.
I wonder what Vindam's role here is going to be. You might even try and pocket Proper here as Velucio and try and speed Proper into, maybe through Hotel, into a slight off angle and force maybe a rotation towards point, because at the moment, Florida Mayhem don't have much onus to actually leave their high ground. Someone could be very effectively pocketed when contesting the high ground. And San Francisco Shock, they need to find a way to force a movement from Florida from these incredibly safe high grounds.
Hisang and Vindime on the right side, waiting for the jump from Junbin, and already having to use recall is not ideal. To now 10-second cooldown left. This will just force Hisang to play farther back until that's back, especially if Checkmate hasn't used his recall. Just nature of that duel. Shock just really wasting a lot of time. Maybe someone there at the back. Able to have presence on the point, they get the first tick. Florida, we're looking at something in their backline. Now they finally turn towards the objective. Junbin is jumping even deeper. First ultimate of the game, it's Chorong on someone who's found these straggler, these flankers of the Shock, and this is not where Finn wants to be, and a good catch before he could use the teleport. And someone, and showing up on the Winston.
Oh, the Winston is huge for someone, and obviously I think that Winston is probably someone's best hero by far, even though we've seen him to be a generalist. He won previously on the Sigma, on Sanctum. San Francisco Shock, though, didn't invest in that previous fight. Now they've got a little bit of a support ultimate advantage coming into this. Vindime can make sure that a fight on the point goes in their favor when everyone's stacked up using that sound barrier.
Oh, Oh, the Kitsune rush from Finn, but he just evaporates. Okay, Junbin has to do something with this. He's just trying to get them off the high ground. He took so much damage, and Junbin has to leave. 3-man anti from Chorong. Shock look a bit lost. I'm not gonna lie, this doesn't seem that coordinated, and I mean it's kind of unlucky you lose Finn that early. It's just not a fight I think should have been invested in.
Oh, Hisang's got to come up big. Has to be a hero with this pulse on. Needs to get it onto either Chorong or RuPaul, but you also need to do the ground mode to get the Suzu out of the way as well. There are so many obstacles to success right here, and one of them is Checkmate, managing to evade that bomb.
Proper got dangerously low, managed to survive. The Shock have 1 minute left to get that second tick. Presence there on the point. Sound barrier used as Shock head to their own backline to peel. As Florida were on the flank. Nano from Trong, it's on to someone again, chasing down the healers. Finn has been removed. And Vindime next on the death note list. And without those healers, man, this is just gonna be rough, and you do not want to be in a tiny room against a primaling someone. 35 seconds. Silver lining though. Florida used all of their ults, so maybe there's a chance. Cope.
Someone's corner of pain. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be labeling that one as a cope right there, because San Francisco Shock, the only thing we're even coming up close to Lemon is going to be the pulse bomb. It needs to connect, ideally onto Chorong, maybe onto Merrick, but first you need to get out that Suzu. You do that by pressuring someone, then Hisang can make his move.
And this is the final move that the Shock have to just show what they have, to what they're capable of. All of this hype towards the point. Overtime begins. Pulse to someone. Florida dangerously low. Chorong finished off. Not a lot of heals left. It's up to RuPaul to keep this team kicking. But it will be the final tick for the Shock, and someone just decided too late to recontest. So they'll have to head back and hope they don't get staggered.
Well, hey, there we saw San Francisco Shock finally being able to execute on a plan, pressuring someone so that both the healers were distracted, and that gave enough time for Junbin to manufacture a dive onto Chorong that eventually hit home. However, now, Lemon, San Francisco Shock, they're going to be up against the timer the entire way towards the end of King's Row. Only 2.5 minutes for Streets is nowhere near enough to do this comfortably. You're going to have to invest in early fights here to build even more momentum. Or Checkmate can die.
It's a good stagger
That's
kill.
also
yeah.
good.
That stagger kill is gonna hurt. Now you're halfway to B. Kitsune rush 2. This will be a big fight, and it's really about how you can surprise Florida. Really, who's gonna take the initiative on this dive too? Junbin knows Florida are around the corner. Maybe even heading down the left alleyway is a neat flank. So we'll see the initiative of the dive. Shock jump in. Junbin has the primal, and RuPaul's been killed. The Shock head in. Florida set their sights on the back line, and it paid off. Now you don't need to invest anything other than the primal if you're the Shock, but you're running out of time, running out of chances to just keep goofing this up. At least it's a decent push towards B, but you're gonna need more. And as Florida got greedy and went for more kills, the Shock disengaged. They're the ones that got punished.
Yeah, that was a really goofy miscom there between the support line and Florida Mayhem. Chorong actually moved away from his good position in the boiler room and tried to go for a flanking nade. And then RuPaul just didn't bother to Suzu himself, thinking, oh, I've still got my Ana in this healable position. I don't need to worry so much about this dive. When ideally, RuPaul should have been repositioning to account for Chorong's rotation. Florida Mayhem, though, now with 5 ultimates, they can certainly recapture the momentum if they all desire to press Q. But how economically can it be done? Junbin moving over now onto the Diva is going to be a lot of pain for someone.
Great bubble, too, from someone just to kind of break up the Shock. The Deadeye from Proper was looking at somebody there in the back. Florida were able to hide, use the primal to get the extra jumps, and just disrupt everything that the Shock were doing. They started to panic. They used the Sounder of Vindom and the Kitsune rush, and the kills are just not coming in. Florida were playing around the corner, and they have the shield of the bubble. So the Shock are just investing, and those stocks are not paying off. They're going downhill.
3 ultimates. It wasn't the cheapest fight, but it has at least been well worth it. You take that trade every time. The ultimates for the ability to stage these early dives, get the momentum. Checkmate, though, at the moment playing pretty mono-directional. Is going to have a very hard time checking Hisang, who's... RuPaul got him. Never mind.
Checked.
Sometimes Kiriko just happens, you know?
Yeah, and it wasn't even a headshot, just taking poke and the heal's not coming fast enough. And that's why a lot of people, like even in contenders running the Brig and Zen, just have kind of better ranged healing, just Ana is so line of sight dependent. Your Lucio sometimes follows your Tracer around, but he's saying needs a lot more help than that. As Florida take an early fight, didn't really get much out of it, but at least Junbin on the Devo be able to bully someone a lot better once inside of that shield. Checkmate, hunting for the pulse, prey in sight. Maybe looking to go after Proper now that he's out of kind of range of that Matrix as the Deadeye from the front of Merit. Shocker just pinched from multiple sides, and Checkmate managed to get that pulse bomb onto Finn. And the Deadeye at the front. This is great coordination from Florida. And Shock only have 22 seconds to get anything done.
Unbelievably valuable kill here. I wonder if we might see Finn. Oh, hello. Oh, it's going to be Vinade from behind, maybe for sleep as well. Vanano, the early fight potentially is huge, Lemon.
Yeah, the someone Nano. You love to see it. Now he's just hunting, and the rest of Shock gonna fall over. At least, though, for how this map started, Shock going towards C is not too bad. They still have some cart push as Florida a bit split on their focus fire right now as Florida like to get these first picks and then finishing off the fight's a different story. They will stack up behind Chorong. You have the Kitsune Rush available for RuPaul. Still Florida are fighting a backline fight, and Heesang is almost emoting on cart while this is being pushed. Florida need to focus on the objective. DPS traded out. Suzu used from Florida. Now they're able to contest. Shock with a 3-man sound barrier. Gonna keep this going for as long as they can. Heesang with the pulse bomb with the Chorong. It's up to RuPaul to keep this defense kicking until respawns do. And Shock are meters away from capping, and I feel like Florida focused these fights in just the wrong areas to allow Shock to even get this far.
Oh yeah, you're exactly right, Lemon. While it may have been a clean engage from Florida, the second half of a fight, the second phase of a fight was all wrong. We needed to see RuPaul use that Kitsune Rush earlier when we saw Heesang trapped on the car. If you can force someone to fight inside your Kitsune Rush, you are going to kill them, and that's exactly what overtime demands. Still, it took way too long to use the Kitsune Rush, and we also saw some, I think, maybe poor pathing from someone in terms of a dive, maybe looking for maximum jump value with the damage instead of maximum ability to cut San Francisco Shock off from their spawn room. Because even while you're antied, you're still invulnerable if you can get back into that garage, and there needed to be a more concerted effort to stop that San Francisco Shock disengage while Heesang dives to the car.
Yeah, that was Florida just living behind Shock at all times, and Shock just moved forward and got so much cart push when they shouldn't have. And just overall Shock not looking as coordinated, and to be expected. You know, you bring on a bunch of rookies, you restructure your whole team. We were expecting the Shock to have a slow start to the season, and they're playing from Korea. Not sure kind of internally if there's stuff that still need to be pieced together. But yeah, it's uncharacteristic to see the Shock not look like they have a game plan. Just the fact that it took almost overtime to cap the point.
Yeah, like you said, there's still a lot of room for development on this roster. A vast majority of the roster is new additions. Only 2 holdovers, I believe, in Proper and Finn, so the previous comp structure has needed a little bit of augmentation. But change here from Merit, oh my goodness, that's a bad early pick. This gives Checkmate so much freedom to get on top of Vindime, and you can already see him giving up the high ground.
Yeah, Florida already on the point, starting that first tick. Without Heesang, you don't have someone that's, you know, easily able to contest, so it'll have to be Jundin, who steps up. Proper's in the top window. Merit has to keep an eye on that. See someone bubbling that top window where Proper was, and from behind you have Heesang has returned for his revenge. And Florida heading in very deep, like past the objective to finish off these kills to truly guarantee at least a first tick. And Florida have the respawn advantage. You don't have Chorong, but should be fine with RuPaul around. Jumpin's been isolated, and Heesang can't blink past this bubble, so fantastic Winston as usual for someone.
Beautiful 3-man dive, and I love the risks that RuPaul is taking as well, just teleporting in with someone onto that backline to make sure that he's getting the healing, and you can also weave in those kunai there as well to make sure that there's enough damage to take down those targets. We've got ourselves a quick replay here as the cart will settle. There's probably someone on the dive. So moving in here. It's already going to be someone and Jumpin just jostling for the high ground control.
They capped you. They really debated you right there with that. But either way, somewhat. And Florida can move past this choke. Up above is Strong. That could be just setting up an anti-grenade to see if they can jump in off of that initiative. It hits Finn and Vindime. There is a push by someone. Forces out the teleport from Finn. And now he could go in even deeper. Surprised he'd rather go after Vindime. It was probably just the easiest target he could access. Still looking to confirm that kill. And while Finn is occupied, Finn just frags Checkmate as he was probably pushing up to help someone with this. And someone doesn't have a lot of backup, but he's disengaged, at least in line of sight of his Ana. And could be going in for round 2 once this Nano comes online.
Yeah, we've got some valuable real estate gained here as well. Heesang has been found out on the back. Suzu could be forced out, but should be an easy pulse bomb kill.
Oh, Merritt just falls over. Great dive by Shock. Can at least take some control of this game. Florida, I mean, once they start diving, they go just deeper and deeper. And it felt like Shock just let them have too much freedom at this point. It's nice to see a fight win every now and then.
You know, I think that while I do talk quite a bit about the interplay between Pulse Bomb and Suzu, what it does do is creates this psychological expectation that, hey, I need to save Suzu, because we've tracked that Heesang has this Pulse Bomb. And I think that does open up these little lapses in judgment where Merritt could have been saved from that dive via Suzu, and maybe it could have been turned on San Francisco Shock, but you're so worried about that ultimate that you try and keep it in the back pocket. Maybe you hesitate just a second too long.
Kitsune rush. RuPaul and friends of Florida, they surge forward. They leave the cart behind, or maybe Heesang was hoping to pulse bomb just one of the stragglers, and this Kitsune rush worked out. Florida got 2 kills out of it. Vindime didn't want to counter with the sound barrier, so Shock will have at least those options to hold the end of point B.
Yeah, holding the end of point B, I think, is the more valuable fight here, and Vindime knew that. So being able to try and fight at the end here, every single fight that Florida Mayhem lose at the end of point B would drain their time bank so much. Jumpin needs to be careful though here. Finn is going to be the main source of healing, and Finn might find himself constrained if Checkmate's going to be able to move in onto the back.
Got Proper ulting, looking for any target. Some have split off to the alleyway. Florida takes shelter in the Mega Pack room. When to re-engage, Proper jumps back, and on an off angle is the Shock, ready to pounce as soon as Florida emerge from their shelter. And as soon as they do, Junbin was right on top of them, so back-to-back fights for the Shock.
Yeah, amazing fight flowchart there as well from San Francisco Shock. They didn't actually get that many kills from Proper's overclock. What they did do is force a split that left Checkmate unsupportable and isolated, which meant Heesang and Vindime could go for the 2 versus 1 and get rid of that off-angle pressure. Then Finn's free to do whatever he pleases, and San Francisco Shock are continuing to hold on to an ult advantage.
Pretty big ult advantage. Deadeye. You thought you could be zoned off at this Suzu to save Merritt, but he just didn't pull the trigger! So we'll be looking at the back of spawn. What a collapse from the Shock. Kitsune rush and sound barrier too to invigorate that. It's only 90 seconds left for Florida to get point B, and that card is pretty deep, so it'll take a lot of tools, a lot of weapons in their arsenal to get through this.
Well, those weapons are certainly coming up now, though, Lemon. 4 of them available, and all of the defensive countermeasures of San Francisco Shock. What is Jumpin doing over here? Playing the Primal, of course. Forgot that he has an extra 1,000 HP in the back pocket, but San Francisco Shock have to be careful not to get caught in rotation here.
Yeah, it'll be the Checkmate and Heesang duel. Winston's getting involved. First Primal from someone. Kitsune rush. The backhands. Coming in strong. Soundberry did hit someone and he needed help. Merritt and friends still got the kills, and they kept someone alive through all of that. And Shock just don't have the firepower, it seems, to finish off these targets. Now Shock are up by 1, but this card is sailing away, and they get the touch at the last second. Heesang is dangerously low and loses that to Merritt. Just a few more meters to go for Florida, but it's getting so damn close. Looking back, the Shock are overtaking in kills, and it's only RuPaul on the left side. And only with 20 seconds left, and how much was invested in that last fight, it's not looking possible for Florida.
That's a heartbreaker. Someone dying in that fight was absolutely crucial to make sure he could get on that cart and control the space. Checkmate has been scouted by Jumpin. The recall's been forced, Lemon.
One last chance to touch as anyone there for Florida. Checkmate at the last second at 1 HP, gets it done. But it's up to the rest of Florida to live on. Someone's jumping back, and someone has to touch. Churong, maybe sliding up the wall? No! Florida didn't realize. So Shock will send us to a map 3.
Unbelievable scout there from Junpin, getting rid of the recall. May well have saved San Francisco Shock this series right there. Overall, excellent in terms of just augmenting their playstyle to make sure that they were accounting for how much someone was going deep to try and facilitate these dives, and being able to cut off the healing from RuPaul as well was super important. And finally, we saw Heesang start to come into his own when it came to these Tracerdoors. Previously, it'd been basically always checkmate. The support coming through for those 2v2s was super strong, and it meant that Shock had no off angle, but Heesang, he's starting to heat on up.
It was nice to see Proper on the Sojourn too. Just having the extra mobility to go up against these dives was a really smart move. Merritt had a really tough time with these Deadeyes, and you know, Cassidy is really good in these kind of close range 1v1 duels, and I think that's why Heesang had to respect that and go more after checkmate. But even Heesang was getting like random picked by RuPaul and other just kind of random damage. So that was a liability they had to depend on. But anywho, we got map 3 around the corner. Shock got away with murder. It seems like lots of murders, and we're gonna see more of those on the other side of this break. Coming into this season, and Florida, I think, are looking really good this series too. What do you make of this series like that?
I'm quite impressed actually with how quickly Florida have been able to figure out their dive timings, and I'm actually also very impressed with Checkmate's Tracer. Holding a candle to Hisang is not easy. Hisang is a player with unbelievable pedigree. Being on both Element Mystic and O2 Blast is essentially wearing a double crown of Korean contenders, and Korean contenders where all the scouting happens for the best players in the world, like Proper, who came from O2 Blast being a scout on their end. I think was on Stormquake before that, but citation is required. Up next is Esperanza. As we head over to push, there are no draws allowed now, Lemon. And Esperanza allows for quite a few different approaches. Now you want to tackle the map. You have your Brawl enthusiasts, of course, over in North America. But I think that both of these teams, especially considering what we just saw in Kings Row, have settled into a comfortable Winston trade, which is more reminiscent of our Grand Finals from last season.
Yeah, last playoffs was, and the does kind of summarize this already, but the Kitsune Rush, that's why you saw a lot of Reaper, was just one of the heroes that could use it the best with how much damage output you could do, and it's kind of a nice anti-Winston measure. But with, you know, Hisang and Checkmate facing off on the Tracer, that's obviously heroes they're more comfortable on. As Proper's kind of jumping between different ranged hit scan from at least like Ashe maybe in scrims to now Sojourn and maybe Cassidy here, and I guess some Bastion, but I don't expect to see that, although I don't know what my expectations were of Pro-Am, to be honest.
Maybe a little bit of experimentation, you know? Just some fun, some games, some goofiness, and of course, a huge amount of high-tier practice as well, which is super important for some of the newer players that might be coming into these rosters, getting that pressure that you feel in officials acclimatized to by newer players. People like Sauna on the Florida Mayhem in particular, who's not in for this match, might be super important for them. Heading out once again with a mirror this time. Proper actually playing on the Cassidy instead of a Sojourn. Does mean that access to the high ground is going to be a little bit more laborious, but it does also mean a touch more frontline damage. Cass doesn't suffer from like the spikes in efficacy that Sojourn does with the rail, just has very consistent high damage output.
So you have kind of this bridge control from Florida to set up Merit for success, have better angles there. A Shock look to approach on the left. You kind of use the central pillar as different flank angles, different routes, but if you play at the back bridge, you see where the push is coming from either angle. It looks like Shock are kind of just testing the waters on either side, sending their Tracer to the opposite route. Looks like you're seeing Vindime kind of assist in these rotations, trying to be the glue of this team to help them get into the spots they need. But shots being exchanged and only a small push by the Shock. Doesn't look like either team wants to die first, as Max has just been antied, and he's brought down to half health. Hisang has had to use recall. These are just some of the cooldowns and conditions that Florida could have began their dive on. They've already posed themselves on the bot, now circled around and jumped on Max and finished him off, and the heals just didn't come quick enough for the Shock. These anti-grenades from RuPaul have been disgusting as Florida take a clean fight. Have to play a little bit slower to get RuPaul back from spawn, but at least some initial push there.
Yeah, RuPaul managed to make the team rotate there and hit the nasty nades, and honestly, a huge amount of that fight win goes over to Choron. Just being able to peel for RuPaul for so long, kept so much of San Francisco Shock's firepower focused on the back area and allowed for the flanks to be contested and cleaned up by Checkmate. It's going to be an early recontest here from the San Francisco Shock, as Proper has actually gone a touch more mobile with the Sojourn. This could be to try and take advantage of the lack of ability RuPaul has, but RuPaul's already built a nano, so the second you see that slide, someone's going to probably get on top of Proper.
Florida have the nano. So they usually initiate this with someone jumping in, and he has Primal, so there's a big push coming for the Shock. And when they kind of want to start this Kitsune Rush, I think there was an anti-grenade from RuPaul that got Suzu'd by Finn, and he just gets slapped back to Jupiter. And someone's going ham, and you just had a feeling that in a Winston matchup, someone was going to look one of like the strongest. As Max makes an appearance here, not able to hold a candle to someone quite yet.
You know, it's a low sample size, Lemon, but I do worry that San Francisco Shock aren't respecting someone's primals enough to respond to them with a sound barrier. I feel like at this point, having given up this fight is far more of a detriment than having used the sound barrier for the primal would have been. Now you have forward spawns for Florida Mayhem. That's supremely important for someone like RuPaul, who when he dies comes back super slowly.
Shock have had issues kind of taking initiative as Finn tried to cross over to the right, just get zapped to death by a Winston of all things. and Mare gets nanoed. So silver lining, and I guess maybe checkmate pulse either way. Silver lining for the Shock is that Florida had to use ults to get this done. That's even more push. Back to the checkpoint the bot goes.
Yeah, forward spawn also cancelled. It'll be regained once Timothy, the bot, has actually crossed over the point that marks the checkpoint. And now all of this is very good push. Each fight win that you get here and every meter of push is actually super hard for San Francisco Shock to try and recontest. It means the bot has to walk back further before San Francisco Shock can get their own distance. No way.
Max
There's no way, Lemon.
Dead.
With Primal and 2 support
I don't even know
ults.
what happened.
I
Yeah,
don't know
Max
either.
just got evaporated. It's just a lot of bursts, and Florida can keep on trucking. You use the speed there of the Lucio. I think Mare could have just held that even longer, to be honest, because there was no danger. At least some initial damage to maybe finish off someone's dive. Either way, this is an 82-meter push. RuPaul is dead. What a pick from Proper. A headshot to give Shock a chance to climb back into this map 3. An 82-meter push, though, is respectable, but you have 6 minutes left.
All right, San Francisco Shock finally actually finding a fight rather than the perfect fight. They just needed a way to leverage the cooldowns that they had. A mass disengagement from Florida Mayhem does mean that they are going to be able to recontest a lot more quickly. A few forward spawns were found, and now claiming the high ground is going to be contested by Max.
Well, Max already had to pop the Primal, and while Florida in a small hallway, that's a great moment for him to take more control, but he's taking a detour. He's taking the scenic route, I guess, as Shock maybe want to just pose themselves for a Kitsune rush. They wait for the dive of Florida. They pop the bubble of someone. And Shock just playing so passively, just waiting for the moment to be forced to make a move. As it's barrier to barrier, Kitsune rush for the Shock. And they're up by 1. A kill on the RuPaul is massive too, as Florida won't have much to say without Merit in the picture. But someone's popped Primal. He has confidence, and how can you not when you have Chorong by your side? What a clutch by Florida. As looking back at the cart, there's barely anybody left. As Vindime tries to join forces with Heesang, who primals and finishes off someone, but he's the only one left of the Shock.
Someone just told Heesang that this is actually his debut series in Overwatch League, so it's time to go Big O mode. And indeed he does. RuPaul, though, with the nano in his pocket, can make sure that anyone can actually recontest the cart with quite a good amount of HP and sturdiness. Max has once again been able to creep his way up towards the bot, but RuPaul definitely controls this engagement between the Anti and the Nano. And you know what? Florida Mayhem, they don't need to make too many moves. They can wait for San Francisco Shock to make a mistake.
Please come with us.
RuPaul with the Nano. Looking at someone, looking at you, buddy. You better pop off. And I think Florida are okay with just wasting Shock's time. It's Shock that have the weight on their shoulders to perform. Nano onto Merit this time, just for the survivability during the dive. And he'd at least get a 1-to-1 trade. All the attention went to Merit at that moment, just stuck inside of the bubble. It looks like Florida will pull through and get themselves to the checkpoint.
Bit of a mistiming there from Shock, to be honest. I mean, if you're going to try and make these dives with the Proper engage using the slide to actually go up with the Winston, Proper needs to have a fully charged rail ready to go. Because if you don't clear a target the second you get up there with a kill shot from the rail, then Proper's got no means of escaping the counterpunch from Florida Mayhem. It forced Max to use his bubble in a less than opportune position to try and deal with the Merit Nano. And Florida Mayhem are now back in control with their forward spawns and a high ground advantage that they can just troll from.
Yeah, someone's on an off angle too. Comes back to force the jump out of Proper, who's now gonna ult just without it. It's already connected on the Merit. On the other side is RuPaul. Under charge! Oh, but the bubble from someone to protect his support. Now the Primal just to mess everything up, but the Chorong sound barrier helps keep the push going even further and even deeper than Florida could ever predict. And without these supports, Shock will have to reset. They just haven't had a good any momentum to work off of. A one-fight win to the neutral point gets answered right back by Florida every time.
Someone is the SFD, the Sojourn Fun Deny with the Primal. It's been consistently destroying the San Francisco Shock. And once again, they have built up this wealth, this treasure trove, this armory of support ultimates, but can't find the ideal time to use them to actually save some players. Once again, keep your eyes on Proper, and if he takes a risky engagement using that slide, how it can be punished by Florida Mayhem, especially with something like a Deadeye.
Yeah, Merit's up there, and it's gonna be the target of, you would hope, Max's dive, just so you can have these tracers roam a lot more freer. But the nano engage ready for Florida as they wait for Shock to make the first move. Max is up there, gets booped, but doesn't drop down. Soundbear and Kitsune rush, but Shock don't have proper. They're also anti-healed. Deadeye in the middle of the field by Merit forces Shock back to the bridge. Heesang's sound pulse bomb didn't hit either as Florida just continuing this push. They're leaving Shock behind.
It's the same story again and again. Proper uses mobility to get into a brawl distance of a Florida Mayhem, but then has no means of disengaging once you're at the ideal range for a Cassidy, where you can get stuck, where you can get shot down by the Peacekeeper. And now Florida Mayhem are getting even more distance. San Francisco Shock are floundering with only a minute remaining and no ults to their name.
Well, Proper just needs that first pick to stop what Florida are cooking. Got Merit a little bit low. Proper's just charging off of the Winston bubble. Someone takes a lot of pressure, but Proper was so close and so greedy for that kill, but yeah, at least traded with Merit. 4v4, Sounder engaged from Florida to keep this cart going 95 meters as Shock have stolen away the bot, but they're losing the fight, so as they kind of prioritize different things, Shock just fell. And Florida, if they get to 100 meters plus with this time left, it just doesn't seem like it's possible for the Shock to come back.
Angie, if you can hear me, prepare the Smugster art, because he's definitely going to deserve it after this one. Florida Mayhem are looking unstoppable, and now when someone's got another Primal Rage, these have consistently destroyed for San Francisco Shock. Proper's making this engage again, it's so reckless.
Yeah, to use the jump offensively like that against a dive, especially when you know the Winston still has jump, just getting so desperate to make these key plays for the Shock, and it's not working out. Because just expecting Heesang to do proper things, it's not going to work out. The Shock lose the series to the Florida Mayhem, something that only Custa could have predicted.
Only Custa could have predicted it. Hey, he did. I didn't expect to see that this would be as close as it was in a Winston mirror, though. Because, honestly, I don't know why we brought Max in for the final map. Like, Max is a good tank, but as far as I'm aware, when I've read the Max lore, when I read the runes, Max was an off-tank player, not the Winston player. And going up against someone in that Winston duel was not great.
And I think a key important thing about Florida's story was the fact that he didn't pick up another tank. And there was a lot of talks about, was someone going to be flexible enough last season? Was he going to be the star that they needed? They kept him, they retained him, and he showed up against one of the biggest teams in the league. So, of course, your player of the match is going to be someone from the Florida Mayhem, from the Sigma swap, bullying the heck out of everyone on the pillar side of Sanctum, to the outshining Max on the Winston, although that was maybe slightly off-rolling. It just, someone's aggression. You nano him every single time. His Primal's getting multi-kills on King's Row. Someone had a performance that is going to be an important statement for Florida's season.
Oh yeah, and it's an important statement to all of Florida's future foes as well. If you've got support ults, you might need to use them for Primal Rages, because someone's mechanics when it comes to the Fists of Fury are absolutely brutal, and San Francisco Shock found that out a very hard way. In our first matchup here of the Pro-Am, our runner-ups, the home of the MVP, the home of the Rookie of the Year of the Roll Stars, have been torn apart by the scrappy new team of the Florida Mayhem.
I know these best of threes are short, and we wish you got to see all of them, but all the teams have to do a round robin. They got to face everybody. In Shock and Florida Mayhem's group, Group A, it's Florida, Shock, Timeless Trick Room, and the Titans. And you just saw kind of the face-off of the two favorites of Group A, but can the Shock kind of pull through against these other teams that they should, in theory, be beating? Now, there's a lot of worries about their ping and just the new roster. But of course, there's more ahead of the Shock, more to develop, especially with these rookies. And we know with Krusty by their side, they're going to pull off some great things like they always do. And speaking of great things, we got great people on the desk we're going to hear from shortly about their thoughts and probably Custa gloating about the predictions. So we'll see you all on the other side of this break.
Hello and welcome back to the Watch Point Game Break. Match 1 is done. Costa was right. So Costa, of course, I want to get your reactions first. You just kind of knew, you know, like, what can I say? Big brain, genius, what a guy.
Oh, you can keep going, but I guess I'll take over. But yeah, I think you really saw in that match the struggles that the San Francisco Shock had. You know, they just looked slow, they looked sloppy. We don't know if that's indicative of what their play is going to be like this year, or if this is just a ping issue. But at the end of the day, the most important thing about this match is Florida Mayhem look very clean. They look good when they're playing with someone on that Winston. I think you get to see the dives, him being at the helm. And it was very interesting to see them pick up Ana, a hero that not many other teams we've seen played. Maybe using that to enable someone a little bit, put that nano onto him, give him that little bit of extra aggression and lead the charge for the Florida Mayhem to take even more wins in the future.
I mean, for me, I think I also agree. I think San Francisco Shock looked a little bit lost, and they seemed a little bit hesitant as well. So I really hope that they figure something out, because they have another match going up against Trick Room next very soon. So if they don't, then it feels like there might be another loss on San Francisco Shock side.
Yeah, and they can't really afford too many losses. The groups aren't that humongous, you know. But I think Lemon Kiwi really summarized it well. San Francisco Shock kind of looked like they didn't really have a game plan coming into this. And they also didn't really seem to have the reactionary style that we're so used to seeing from them. But again, retooled roster, new season. Maybe they didn't prepare as much for Pro-Am as they did for the actual regular season. We don't know. However, what we do know is the Florida Mayhem look cohesive. They look good. They meshed well, and they looked strong. And definitely top contender of their group now, for sure. Now, we do have one really nifty little play that Costa would love to break down for us.
Yeah, of course I want to hype up my main support players, and this is going to be Chorong. Chorong is, what he did here going into this match is Chorong was able to get a decloak onto Heesang going into this fight. And what that did is you see how Heesang's just in a really poor position here. What happened before this fight is Chorong gets a great decloak, so then what happens is Heesang's EMP just came out too late, and that defined this round. That kept Florida Mayhem in this map to then go on to close the entire map. So I want to give massive props to Chorong, as much as you might not have seen it here. It was a really big play. We did see it on the broadcast, and you know, I hope we get to see more big plays from Chorong for this Florida Mayhem squad.
Or any main support, really, because that's what Costa wants
I'll
to
talk about anyone.
Only support.
Now, of course, that was a great play. However, the one player who walked away as the absolute MVP, you know, the player of the match, was someone. And Danny will now have a quick chat with him about that victory and the Pro-Am in general.
All right, let's head into the interview. Our first interview of the Pro-Am. Hi, someone, can you hear me? 자, 서문 선수, 제 목소리 들리시나요?
네, 들려요.
All right, so someone says that he could hear my voice. So can you just say hello to all the fans who are watching this right now to briefly start the interview. 자, 인터뷰 시작하기 전에 일단 자기소개부터 한번 해주세요. 첫 번째 인터뷰이기 때문에.
네, 안녕하세요. 저는 2023년 플로리다 메임에서 탱커 포지션을 맡게 된 서먼이라고 합니다.
Hello everybody, my name is Someone and I am in the tank position for the 2023 Florida Mayhem team. All right, so let's just jump right into the interview. So my first question for you, Someone, is after losing King's Row to the San Francisco Shock, I think going into the last map, Esperanza, you guys definitely seem to be a lot more cohesive, seem to have a lot more team synergy. So my question is, what sort of changes did you guys make after King's Row ended? 자, 첫 번째 질문은 이번 첫 경기에서 이제 왕의 길을 패배한 후에 진 후에 이제 마지막 에스퍼란자 맵으로 들어가면서 플로리다가 좀 더 살아나는 느낌, 더 훨씬 잘한다는 느낌을 많이 준 것 같아요. 이번에 왕의 길에서 패배를 한 후에 좀 어떤 대화를 나눴고 팀원들이랑 또 이제 또 어떤 조율을 하셨나요?
저희가 조합이 서로 다이브였는데 상대 팀한테 계속 주도권이 있는 것 같더라고요. 그래서 이제 근데 계속 그 다이브에 당하다 보니까 이제 저희는 우리가 먼저 세게 가자. 그래서 이제 쫄지 말고 더 빡세게 해보자. 딱 이런 식으로 해서 이스페란스를 잘 극복한 것 같습니다.
All right, so going into the last map Esperanza, I think we both sort of had a dive composition, and it seemed like the San Francisco Shock on King's Row had the upper hand, and they had the momentum definitely. So after we lost King's Row, going into Esperanza, we said, hey, let's be more aggressive. Let's not be scared of our plays. Be more aggressive. Be more forceful about our actions, and I think that really worked out for our team and for our win for that match. All right, final question, someone for you. We had a long off season. And I'm sure as the main tank of the Florida Mayhem, I'm pretty sure you had a lot of practices and you were sort of wanting to become better. So during the off season, what were some of the improvements that you made? 자, 이번 오프 시즌이 생각보다 길었잖아요, 서먼 선수. 그리고 또 어떻게 보면
네.
플로리다 팀에서 솔로 탱커이기 때문에 이번에 좀 들어오면서 좀 개인적으로 좀 어떤 노력을 하셨나요?
일단은 라마트라라는 영웅이 나오긴 했지만 이제 다른 영웅을 이제 더 많기 때문에 다른 영웅을 위주로 연습하면서 근데 이제 저는 이제 챔프 막 실력보다는 제가 좀 작년에 좀 급했던 게 많았던 것 같은데 좀 차분해지고 그리고 최대한 팀원들과 소통을 더 많이 하려는 연습을 많이 했던 것 같아요.
All right. There were some new heroes that came in, for example, Ramatra. And other than Ramatra, I practiced a lot of different heroes to diversify my hero pool. And more than, I guess, practicing on heroes, I wanted to focus on myself as I wanted to be more calm and composed when I'm in a match. And also, I wanted to communicate better with my teammates. So those two things were the most important things that I worked on during the off season. All right, that is it for the interview. Someone, thank you so much for your time, and again, big congratulations on the win. 자, 오늘 첫 번째 인터뷰 여러분들 감사드리면서 보내드리도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you. Bye bye.
No, thank you, someone. Thank you so much for the insight. Thank you, Danny, for all the translations and the great questions. And yeah, someone and his team, a great first start into the Pro-Am 2023 season here. I can't wait to see more from him and the rest of the squad. Now, shifting gears, let's take a look at our second match of the day. London Spitfire and Atlanta Reign. Atlanta Reign riding high on Scrimbox right here. So they should be considered the favorite heading into this. Ain't that right, Costa?
Yeah, and I hyped up Atlanta Reign with the Scrimbox and how the exchange has been going absolutely wild lately. And the players that they picked up were absolutely incredible. But the London Spitfire, on the other hand, this is a team that really stuck to their guns after last year. Christopher won Coach of the Year, and this roster defied expectations. But now, heading into this 2023 season, those expectations are there, that they're going to be a much more solid team. They've made a couple more additions. It'll be interesting to see if we see those guys soon. But right now, the same squad that we saw last year.
I mean, London Spitfire was my favorite team last season. They're gonna kill it. I mean,
was it just Hardy?
Reign,
weren't you just like a Hardy fan? Was it really London Spitfire?
No, I liked everyone on the London Spitfire team. I don't know what you're talking about. Atlanta Reign, they had a whole retool. Costa's favorite team, I guess, right now for this season so far, Lip. Coming into the Atlanta Reign was a big news. So I'm definitely really excited to see how this team is going to perform against the Spitfire.
It's gonna be a good one for sure. Now, team support bundles are on sale right now through April 11th, as you can see. So make sure to get your Sigma, Doomfist, Ramatra, and a